We're in Kohler, Wisconsin, visiting the Kohler Company, one of the major manufacturers of plumbing products. And who better to tell us all about it than the great-granddaughter of the founder, Laura Kohler. Hi.
Welcome, Bob.
Thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks.
It's great that we can start our tour not in the factory, but here in your showroom, because this is a pretty unique facility, right?
Well, we think so. It's a 10-year-old design center. We created it so customers could actually get an idea of how to use our products.
And it's become a tourist attraction as well.
Oh, yeah. Over 100,000 people a year visit the design center.
It's a little bit like going to a museum of modern art to look at not just plumbing fixtures, but the architecture here is pretty neat.
Well, yeah, and the sound and the water is moving, and there's lots of workable products, and it's a lot of fun.
Lots of us who are in the building business and remodeling are familiar with many of these products, like these wonderful teal fixtures, the whirlpools, and the pedestal sinks and the like. But you guys are constantly bringing out new things. What are some of the new products?
Well, we've got the 10-jet body spa, which is actually, in simple terms, a standing whirlpool, which has 37 gallons of water and recirculates that water at 80 gallons of water per minute. So it's quite a huge force coming at you.
Yeah, that sounds like...
But you can regulate it, so you can get the massage that you really want.
And there's also new whirlpools that are just traditional ones, right?
We've got a luxurious whirlpool that actually has back jets and a neck pillow with jets coming through, so it massages your neck.
What's that called?
The Vigora.
The Vigora.
And then we've got vessels, which are actually above-counter lavs that actually sits on the counter of your bathroom or
So this is really leading-edge contemporary design as well. But what I've always enjoyed about some of the Kohler lines is the kind of reproduction pieces that replicate some of the early plumbing fixtures. In fact, we're using some of them in our house.
We've got a number of traditional suites, the portrait, the vintage, and the revival.
Well, this is a lot like visiting a design display, but what we really want to do is learn a little bit about how the vitreous china is manufactured.
Well, then let's go over to our pottery. We've got Ken Worth over there, and he's the manager of new product design, and he can show you.
Great. Ken, tell us where the raw material comes from.
Well, our raw materials come in boxcars from North Carolina and Illinois, and slurry comes in tank cars from Tennessee and Georgia.
And it's all stored out in powder form out there in silos, right?
The powdered form is in the 3 silos you see out front.
And then here you've got the actual mixing operation.
Right.
How are you doing?
How's it going? How's the batch look?
It's fairly smooth right now. It was a little lumpy 5 minutes ago. It's looking real well now.
How long does it take to get a batch like this ready to go?
About 55 minutes. If we get it all on target, normally 55 minutes.
And do you have to worry about lumps or impurities in there?
What we do upon completion of this 55-minute cycle, we will run all the finished slip over a screening device, which is an 85 mesh screen, and that'll remove all the impurities. Part of those impurities are lignite as well as iron. And here we've got the magnetic filters. They'll be used to...
These things here, these pipes and valves and things, are actually magnets?
Right. Those are magnets which will pull out the metal content that remains in there.
Is there much to deal with?
Well, there's enough that it'll cause a defect in the final process, and defects in the final process just downgrade the quality of your product.
Yeah. And Kohler does not make seconds. Anything that has a defect gets broken up, right?
That's right.
The slurry then is piped from here to where they put it in the actual molds?
From here, we pump our slurry into the storage tanks. And the storage tank is a holding area for approximately 24 to 48 hours. From there, we pump it into our final casting distribution tanks.
So tell us what's happening in the cast shop.
The cast shop, we will get the slip down through the respective distribution lines. The caster will fill the mold either through a top funnel, or he will use the pin and fill from the bottom.
And these gentlemen are working at a pretty fast pace here.
Right, and because of the pace that these people work at, this is directly tied into the compensation that they can earn on a daily basis. Oh. This is a very good workforce that we have in this community.
That's great. And then once the slurry is put into these molds, how long does it have to stay in the mold?
Normal time is about 60 minutes for the process, and then we'll drain out the excess slip, and about 15-20 minutes or a half hour after that draining process, they will remove the top core.
This is a pretty vast space. Now, what do you call this area?
This is the cast shop area.
The cast shop. And what are these men doing?
They're rolling out the green piece At this point, they're removing the top core, and they'll be getting ready to punch the faucet holes and the overflow holes.
So there you got a lavatory.
There you've got the lavatory that started as a liquid this AM and is now finished product here.
And from here, well, obviously they're cutting in the holes while it's still soft, but what happens next to it?
It goes through the drying process and then to the glaze department, our spray department, where glaze is applied. Then we place it into the kiln for final vitrification.
Vitrification meaning actually turning into a glass-like material, right? Okay, at this point, all of this is basically finished, toilets or lavatories or whatever, right?
Yes.
And what happens here?
This is the quality control inspection area where he will use the ball to sound the piece. That soundness tells us that there's a defect in the product because it was not a crisp sound.
Can we compare the two? That one's good?
Yes.
That one's duller.
Right.
Okay, so what happens to that one?
That's a defective product, which we will call scrap.
Okay, well, what happens next to the ones that are good?
All the good pieces now will be passed on to the water test station where they're checked for leaks.
Yeah.
And at that particular point, they will move to the grinding area for 100% grinding of the foot, so it's in plane, ready to go to the packing station and then to the customer.
The last step is to make sure it's flat so that when we seat it on a ceramic tile floor, it doesn't wobble.
That's right.
Terrific.